Now the crib is getting a whole new facelift. All those guys that was getting money back in the heroin era, like Hawk, Quartz, like George Tate, Billy, Griff, Cheese, like Bunky Brown, them niggas been flooding towns forever, all throughout the 70s and all throughout the early 80s, getting all type of cake in Fort Myers and Naples, St. Pete, over there in Pensacola, Jacksonville, Savannah, Atlanta, all up in D.C., sitting all type of work to Louisiana and Michigan. Them niggas was eating forever. But going into 84, it was like a changing of the guards. Because now it was all about, Big Ike, Convertible Bird, and like Musclehead, and, Roca, Convertible Trick, Kazi. Them niggas was getting a whole lot of cake. And not just locally. Them niggas was taking their show on the road. You know what I'm saying? Everybody I called out, them niggas was getting money all throughout Liberty City. And it was safe to say that they was taking a whole gang of niggas from all these projects and flooding all these towns. I remember like it was yesterday, the first year we got to senior high school in 1985, all my friends that I knew that stayed in all these projects, maybe that first month of the new year or the new school year, I seen them. A couple of weeks after that, I ain't seen them niggas no more. The next time I seen them niggas was around Christmas time. And when we seen them niggas was looking like Munyon. Like my guys, Junkie and Kenny K say over there at Critical Thinkers podcast, them niggas was looking like Munyon. They was getting a whole lot of money out of town, and they had a whole lot of stories about their road beat. So, round about this time, 1985, 1986, that's when shit started getting real interesting because, like I always mention, my dog always been a fly guy. Even when he first moved to the neighborhood, he always had the new shit. He always had the latest shit. He was like the first young nigga I know to be wearing telemades. Back then, young niggas weren't wearing telemades like that. That was mainly for the older people for a few reasons. You just couldn't go in any store and buy telemades. You had to go get sized up and fitted for that shit. And that shit wasn't cheap. Telemades was like $60 or $70 for each pair of pants. And you couldn't go everywhere just to get it. You had to either go to King Taylor's. He was right there on like 61st Street and 7th Avenue. He sat right next door to Mop City Barbershop. Or you went to Miami Pants, which was down on 30-something Street and like 7th Avenue. Everybody just won, wearing shit like that. He always had like the latest J's, Elise, the Fila, the Clarks, the Bally's. And I remember I used to ask him, like, damn, man, how you like be getting all this? And he said, man, I get all this from my god brother. And I had not yet met his god brother by then. He was like, yeah, man, he said, man, I get all this from my god brother. He said, if I don't get it from my old girl, then my god brother get me all this. He was like, yeah, man, he from Victory Homes, man. He said, yeah, man, he be robbing, he be, grabbing books, he be robbing the trains. And, when you that young, you like 14 or 15 years old, your mind is not mature enough to be able to put the play together. But as the years went on, I was able to think back on like, okay, well, it kind of lines up because, back in those days, the 70s going into the 80s, Miami definitely was the carjack capital. Definitely known for tourist killing. Not glorifying it, I'm just stating facts. And I stand on this when I say Liberty City, the city of Miami, is definitely the reason why they changed the law. They brought the new law in where they changed all the tags. All the rental cars, their tags went from Z tags and Y tags to just stand Florida. They changed all that on the strength of all the tourist killing and all the smash and grab that was going on in the 70s and 80s down, down in the crib. So as I think back, it kind of made sense what my dog was telling me what his god brother was into. Then he also told me, like, yeah, man, my god brother also, he got like a basketball team. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, he got his own basketball team. We play for him. It's called the Little River Hoyas. We said, yeah, man, we got a van, we got everything. I was like, man, well, how he do all this? Because I'm thinking now, I was thinking, back then, the city and the county wasn't giving all type of grants and everything how they do these days. And they're like, yeah, man, he do all this, on his own. And he get money in the street. So when you a jit and you young like that, your antennas, they kind of go up, and then you start to get a little curious, and, you saying all that good shit. Then now, in certain, in some kind of way, you want to get that type of shit. All right. This same year, I remember my dog telling me that his family is thinking about moving to New York. He was like, man, but I'm not going. He said, man, I don't want to go up there, man. It's country up there. I'm not going. I'm staying down here. He said, but, the majority of them is moving to New York. So by him being the youngest, his sister and brother was already off the porch. So sure enough, a few months later, the family, they make that transition and they go to New York, upstate New York to be exact. Now, they still got the crib down there in Shuttle. So as everybody break off, he's still in the crib. His sister, them, they got their own, they got their own spots and everything. So what I would do is I would take my TV out of my room and I'll walk around the corner to his house and we'll watch TV. Sometimes I take pots and pans around there. We'll cook, we just now, nigga like 15 years old. We doing all this on our own. We wildcatting, in the crib. It's just us. Sometimes some other homeboys, they'll come through and they'll parlay with us. But we was doing that, for maybe like a month or two. Still getting up in the morning, still going to school, coming back to Shuttle, doing the shit we've been doing since we was jets. Okay, not too long after that, his older sister, she get approved for her apartment. The same building she moved into, the brother lived in the same building also with his baby mama. So that's how the sister was able to get this apartment on the strength of the brother and his baby mama. So everybody's staying in this building. This building is on 57th Street and 7th Court. In the same building was a drug spot. The nigga who drug spotted was my dog older sister who had just got an apartment. She used to go with the nigga maybe like 7 or 8 years prior. Of course, she had one baby, her boyfriend, they were living together. She just used to mess with this nigga like years. That shit was like waiting in her rear view. But it was this nigga's spot. So it's the same routine for me and my nigga. We get out of school. We used to get out of school at Edison back then, maybe like 2:30. Get out of school, walk to my dog, walk to their new spot. He'll change clothes. We'll go to Shuttle, and then we start doing what we always did for years. But we noticed every time we would get out of school and walk to my dog's new apartment, the niggas that was out there getting money, the lieutenants and the gunman, they'll always be out there fussing. And the topic of discussion will always be about who fucking up the books, who ain't come to work, who was late, who ran off with this, who ran off with this. It was always the same conversation every day. So as we doing our same routine, day by day, one day we get out of school and just like always, the lieutenant and the gunman, they out there talking about who ain't come to work and the same old rah-rah. Because every time we came, it was always different niggas over there that was moving to work. Till one day, me just messing around and joking, I said, man, give me that bomb. In other words, give me the pack, give me the work, let me go ahead and move it. I'm just joking. I never sold drugs in my life at this time. I ain't know shit about drugs. Like I always tell y'all, in Shutterline, it was all single family homes. It was a residential area. The closest we had to projects was Sable Palm. It was no projects in Wynwood. It was no projects in the zone, which was on 46th Street going back. All the projects mainly was on a outside of Shutterline and all over town. But there wasn't no projects in Shutterline. I say that to say this. It's safe to say in the projects, when you walk out your house in the projects, it gonna be a whole lot of motion going on. You're gonna be all type of motherfuckers getting money, all type of people getting high, all type of big crap games, all type of helicopters. You go hear all type of gunshots, the crackers hopping out, sliding all through the project. You see all that shit there, in that type of environment. In Shutterline, it wasn't none of that snapping like that. So I wasn't seasoned, I wasn't privy to none of that shit. My dog, to a lesser extent, because he grew up in Victory Home Project. But me, I didn't know. So by me just joking and saying that day, man, give me that bomb, to my surprise, the niggas, they put the bomb in my hand. Now this round about 3:30. They give me the bomb, I get right to it. It was easy mathematics. All the rocks was $5 rocks. So I knew every 20 rocks is $100. Every 15 rocks is $75, and so forth and so forth. So that part of the game was easy. So, I got right to it. Now my dog, he went upstairs, he changed clothes, and he left with the rest of our friends. And they went to Shutterline and did what they did. I stayed, I got there, I got right to the money. So around about 9 o'clock that night, my dog come back from playing over there in Shutterline. He come back to the apartment, and he was like, man, how was it? I was like, man, as you can see, dog, I wasn't able to sit down ever since you left. I say, man, there's just so many people back and forth, back and forth. He said, how much you made? I said, I made like $6,000 or $7,000. He was like, man, for real? I was like, yeah. Now y'all got to think, all this bread was coming in like $5 increments, like, cause it was Miami, the nickel bowl, the capital, everything was $5 down there. And in those couple hours, I made, a couple of bands. So he was like, man, what time y'all get off? I was like, man, I don't get off till 12. He said, okay. So he stayed out there with me for a little while, and then he eventually went up there and went to bed. So at 12 o'clock, when it was time for me to turn the bomb over to the night shift, because this particular spot had 12 to 12 shifts, and it was 24 hours. When I got ready to turn the bomb over at 12 o'clock, the lieutenant asked me, Cal, man, can you come back tomorrow? I was like, yeah. I said, yeah, I'll be here when I get out of school. He was like, nah, dog, you got to come at 12, man. It's 12 to 12. We need you at 12, man. So I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, dog. I said, if I leave school, my old girl go find out, man. He was like, man, just act like you sick. They go give you a pass and just be here around about 12, man. We need you over here. So the next day, sure enough, I get out of school early and I'm around there and I get on the clock at 12 o'clock. And this became an everyday thing. The first week I got paid, and I'm going somewhere with this. The first week I got paid like $375, maybe $400. Once I got paid, I went straight to Rasul's and I brought me a pair of Bally's and a pair of Clarks. One time for the OG Rasul's, still doing this thing to this day. Once I brought those 2 pair of shoes, I never looked back. That shit that just really fucked my head up, because now I knew that I didn't have to ask the old girl for anything, scared that she may tell me no, I may have to wait a couple of weeks, to get it, because, back then I didn't understand about paying the mortgage and how important the car note was, or keeping the lights on, or keeping grocery in the house. I didn't know how important that was back in those days. So when I was able to buy my own gear, I never looked back. It was up from there. So as we getting money around there, and every day is like clockwork, I'm coming around there, we doing our thing. The spot definitely was $1 million spot. It definitely was making 20,000 or better every day within a span of 24 hours. That's big facts. The spot was getting like a whole lot of fucking money. Now, at this time, I had not yet met the nigga whose spot it was. Heard about him a whole lot, but I never met him. So now, one day, maybe 2 months in, I see a red Benz pull up. It was a big body Benz. He pull up, and the nigga get out the car. And when I seen the nigga was just like a bumpkin. This nigga had some Converse on, had some Wrangler G's on, and like a regular t-shirt. Of course, he had the rollie on and the Cuban link and all that, but the nigga was dressed real goofy like. But the nigga got out like a brand new 1986 Benz. It was red. It was clean. He got out the car, and of course he knew who I was, but I had not yet to meet him. He walked over to me. He gave me dap, and he was like, "What's up, Cal? My name Rick. Call me Rick the Ruler."